Hey y'all, it is Dr. Maureen Seabird, the founder of Fertility Goals, and we are here for episode 4 of Fertility Goals, the podcast. Thank you so much to all of you who have been tuning in, who have been subscribing and liking the episodes and offering such great feedback. I am super excited for some future projects with Fertility Goals, the podcast. I've been reached out by so many amazing people. So I'm ready to spread the word about fertility information so we are all educated and informed and feel empowered to take control of our fertility journeys and stories. So today I wanted to talk about what do you do if you don't have insurance to cover fertility coverage. So last episode got a lot of great feedback and information, feedback and people saying that they learned a lot of information about insurance and what it covers, what it doesn't cover. But I did get a few people who said, but Maureen, I don't have private insurance. I'm on Medicaid or I am self-employed. What should I do? What are my options? And so today I really just wanted to have this episode to talk about 5 different ways that you can fund your fertility journey. So listen, subscribe, share this episode to somebody who might be experiencing challenges with fertility and trying to figure out ways that they can actually finance to have the family of their dreams. And I wanted to share that this episode will actually help those who are on their fertility treatment journey, and then also to help with those who are thinking about adopting. Many people think that the antidote or the answer to the cost of IVF is just to adopt. If you look and see all the adoption fees for an agency in your area, you're not going to see anything lower than, let's say, $35,000 to $40,000. And so it costs a lot, sometimes even more to adopt than it would be to come out of pocket for certain fertility treatments. So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you where to start, but consider that it's going to be a large investment of time, finances, and resources. So hopefully I can offer you some information that can help. All right, let's just get started. Number 1. So payment plans with the fertility clinic. Not every fertility clinic is going to have a payment plan system available to you. So that is something that you need to ask the billing or finance coordinator or office manager. They have different titles that kind of do very similar things. But essentially, you want to talk to the money person. You want to know if they have different payment plans or different installments that you can do over time. And if they do, more than likely, full payment is due before treatment even begins. So it's not something that you can begin and just avoid or anything afterwards. It is not like a credit card in the sense that you purchase something, you have that product ahead of time, and then you pay it off. It is truly, you need to be on this payment plan ahead of time. Checks need to be cleared. Finances need to be all together before they will actually even start certain protocols. So keep that in mind and begin preparing for that and preparing for those payment plans, because depending on where you're at, in terms of finances and life and even your age, you have to consider how long it might take you to do those installments. Some fertility clinics also offer something called a shared risk plan. So if you look up Shady Grove Fertility, for instance, it is a one-time fee and you have unlimited or as many opportunities for IVF rounds until you actually conceive and birth a live baby. It is not a free-for-all that many people think it is in terms of I can have so many cycles of IVF before I can get pregnant. They have very strict criteria in terms of who qualifies for this or not. There are different age requirements, quality of egg requirements, and labs and all this stuff for you to be a candidate for this plan. And in this plan, they say if you do not conceive a baby by the time that you decide to stop treatment, then you are offered a 100% refund. And I have seen people sign up for these plans and be extremely successful. However, again, I just want it to be clear that it is not something that just anybody can sign up for and be qualified for. This clinic and then a few other clinics, they actually present each patient, and it is a team of doctors and nurses and maybe even embryologists who come together to actually vote on whether or not this patient will qualify for this type of financing program. So please consider and maybe even look for fertility clinics that offer this, and then kind of go from there and really understand the nitty-gritty details of what is required to actually qualify for this type of funding. Number 2, grants and scholarships. So I was actually surprised to learn that there's so many different foundations that offer grants and scholarships for fertility treatment. And I was really excited to learn more about these different organizations. They typically end up being nonprofit organizations that fundraise throughout the year. And either 1 or 2 times a year, they have points where people can actually apply. And they all come from different types of backgrounds and flavors and all that. Some require you to be already in treatment or have already been evaluated. So you need to send some medical records to verify, or even a note from a doctor to verify. Some require that you are a certain age range and you don't have children or not. All of them have their different requirements. Some of them will offer grants and scholarships for egg freezing and even adoption as well too. And so the main thing is really to just do your search, call different organizations, see what time of year that they're going to be putting out their applications, because sometimes they can come and go, and maybe you just may not be in their purview or on their mailing list or, involved enough to know when things are happening. And so I know of a couple organizations. So there's the CADE Foundation, CADE, the CADE Foundation. Shout out to Dr. Camille Hammond. She's doing amazing work. After going through her own fertility struggles, she started this nonprofit foundation. One, help educate people and people of color and all types of people about fertility and fertility challenges. And then she has since partnered with so many different organizations and fertility clinics to sometimes offer free rounds of treatment or their signature grants. So they have up to $10,000 grants, and the number vary per year, but they're often fundraising. They have galas, they have like a 5K, they have different virtual events throughout the year where they are fundraising to get this money for the different grants and scholarships. These are grants, so you do not have to pay them back. And typically there are different requirements that need to be met in order for you to receive these monies. One caveat that I will note often with the CADE Foundation and other foundations too, not singling this one out, you often have to return service. So it's either volunteering at the 5K or volunteering at the gala, even speaking and sharing your story or testimony. So if you are generally uncomfortable with sharing your business, I suppose, please consider maybe looking for different options that don't necessarily have those requirements. But it is a great organization. They've been very successful in supporting families. I've heard only positive things about this experience in receiving a CADE grant. So if you are in the DMV area, that's where they're mainly situated in Maryland, but they have national and global influence as well too. And I'm super excited to see them grow. Then you have another organization called Fertility for Colored Girls and Guys. Now they've actually rebranded. Shout out to Dr. Reverend Stacey Edwards Dunn. She has done phenomenal work. Not only do they have grants and scholarships, but they actually have different chapters across the United States where I believe once a month at least, women meet to talk and support one another in their fertility journeys and in their challenges and victories. And so I've been blessed enough to work with her as she's planted chapters in Brooklyn, in Washington, D.C., and then also in Charlotte, North North Carolina. Shout out to North Carolina. I had a really good time when I lived there for grad school. But yeah, Dr. Stacey Edwards Dunn, she is doing phenomenal work for Fertility for Color Girls and guys, and they will often have really great grants and opportunities. So hop onto their mailing list. They also have different fundraising opportunities. They work closely with different pharmaceutical companies and also with fertility clinics themselves. So if you ever see a launch that's happening, it is not abnormal for them to have a raffle to have free evaluation or even free cycles of egg freezing or IVF. So I'll definitely link those websites in the show notes and then also on Instagram and TikTok because they are doing great work and there's a lot of opportunities. They can be very competitive, but as you get involved and put yourself out there and share your story, you'd be surprised what opportunities come through. Number 3, personal loans or financing or fertility financing loans. Yes, these do exist. There are a few different companies out there, and sometimes maybe you can get a personal loan from a bank, and that would be a different process. I'm not sure how they feel with those funds going towards medical treatment or not. However, there are different companies that are out there. I did find one. I am not sponsored by them. It is called Future Family, where they can have as low as 0% financing for your fertility treatments. So if anybody has used any of these options in terms of getting a loan, please share in the comments, discuss what you use, how was the process. This is something that's going to go on your credit, so consider those options as well too, and maybe different ramifications for that. But overall, you can essentially apply for a regular loan and use that to pay the fertility clinic directly. So consider those options. Be wise. I am not a financial planner, or accountant, or credit specialist at all, but consider what those options are for you and also thinking like the long-term ramifications of the interest rates as well and how that could affect your family's finances. But loans are not abnormal to come by in terms of, it won't throw a fertility clinic off if you're using loans to pay for your treatment. But just know that the fertility clinic themselves, they often will try to shy away from financing in-house and will encourage you to look for other opportunities. Number 4, back to your work benefits. So HSAs, FSAs, or other family building benefits. Even if your job does not have specific mandates or offers fertility treatment through insurance, you can elect to max out your HSA or your FSA funds, which are flex spending accounts or health savings accounts that take out pre-tax dollars, and you can use those to fund some of your treatments up to a certain amount. There are limits every year in terms of how much you can max out. And so it is essentially money that goes into a bank account, or sometimes you'll get like a debit card, credit card type of thing, where prior to taxes being taken out, you can have this money set aside, and you typically need to use a merchant or a vendor that has different merchant codes in their billing machines and process as well too. So this is something that I am using right now to pay for small things out of pocket, like co-pays or different procedures and blood work as well too. And so it's a super easy and intuitive way of paying for things. And also it helps with the tax burden. And so before I didn't understand how it helped with the tax burden, but what I have learned is that essentially by taking money out before your taxes are taken out, you then at the end of the year have a lower total income. And so then the taxes that are calculated in terms of what needs to be taken out, and maybe you need to owe more, the amount of income is lower. It's essentially your income minus how much came out pre-tax. And so that's your final tax income bracket as well too. So I'm not sure if I explained it well. Again, I am not an accountant. I am not anybody financial. I am just sharing these options and information with you. One thing that I realized that I used to overlook a little bit, sometimes they'll have additional benefits that help with family building. So if you look at your benefits and going through enrollment time period, you'll have opportunities for not only like short-term disability, but you could have short-term disability add-ons. You can, do some like other like life insurance add-ons as well too. They will often have add-ons for adoption care. So most of my jobs in the past have had about $10,000 in adoption care support, where it's either refundable or they pay directly to a adoption agency. My husband actually has a really great benefit through his job where he has $25,000 for family building. So anything that he comes out of pocket or at and below $25,000, he can get that reimbursed. And they are very strict with this benefit on what it can and cannot be used for. So it can be used for fertility testing. It can be used for adoption services and IVF, and it can be used actually for surrogacy. So if there's any need to use a surrogate later on, those are some monies that can be applied for that. And so when you're thinking about the HSA and the FSA, that is something that can only be elected when you are brand new at a job and you're doing your initial elections or during the enrollment period. So if you do not have anything right now going to your HSA or FSA, you may need to wait until the end of the year or whenever you do your benefits enrollment. Typically, it's between August and October for some jobs. If certain benefits roll over or renew in July, then April or May might be the time that you actually have to change your enrollments. So keep that in mind. Put this in the back of your head to make sure that you are electing for those enrollments, but then also knowing the repercussions of not using those funds. For certain jobs, you can roll over sometimes a max of $400 or $500. And so if you have elected for $3,000 or $4,000 to come out into those accounts, then you have to consider that you may lose some money over time. And lastly, number 5, you can do crowdfunding. So the GoFundMes, the different family funds, different fundraisers for you and your family members. So consider that people in your community may be very much so open to donating. I always joke around to my young gals that I talk about egg freezing. They're looking at the numbers and say it's not covered by their insurance. I'll say, ask your parents. And they're like, well, my parents are going to give me money for this or that. And I'm like, well, if they are rushing you or pressuring you or bothering you about being grandparents, then say, Mom, Dad, where the cash at? Okay? Where is the money to fulfill your dreams of becoming a grandparent? That's it. But you just never know what is possible. I've heard of people getting different donations from community funds or folks who have been adopted. They have started their own nonprofits and they are open to giving out grants for, adoption services as well too. Churches might be very open to helping with family building grants, and then just different organizations. I'm not sure if any sororities or fraternities do this, but this could be something that they can explore as well too, as they are considering the ever evolving needs of our communities. So don't be afraid to ask, because you literally never know what you might get in return. I am a believer of closed mouths don't get fed. And so really consider ways that you can tap into your community. You can tap into, different organizations and nonprofits whose mission really is to fund the family needs of others. It'd be amazing if within the next few years, Fertility Goals can do some grants and funding people building their families. And so I'll just keep that in mind. But in the meantime, in order for me to get those monies, I need you all to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I'm super excited to share all this information that I just have sitting in my head and all my new different hairstyles. One thing I love about being a Black woman is that we can be 5 different people in 5 different days. So please, if there's any questions on anything that I shared today, let me know. Again, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you have any questions or if you have any resources or websites that can help people fund the family of their dreams. Have a good day.